Canada has messed up big time, and they're doing permanent damage because they have a bunch of leaders up there who are pathetically insecure and trying to act like they're the big man on campus and in charge. And what they don't understand is it's not just that President Trump is in charge. President Trump, as president of the United States, is leader of the largest economy in the world. The United States has the largest economy in the world. And what that makes the United States, it makes our economy in many ways much more powerful than even our military, right? It really is. The economic power of the United States is incredibly powerful. And, you know, the thing that people are really spoiled about in this country is it's that we've got Trump. You know, Trump came down the escalator 11 years ago, more than a decade. Everything in this country has revolved around President Trump and his leadership, even during the 4 years of the Otto-Penn administration, which really seemed like a blink, right? I mean, I don't even remember that. I think I blocked out all of that stuff. But the whole country and the world have been following Trump's lead for over 10 years now. And what people are spoiled about, because it's been so long, 11 years, you get kind of used to it. But this is the first president of the United States in my lifetime that each and every day when he wakes up and does whatever it is he's doing, whether it's a post on True Social, a phone call with a foreign leader, take it on Iran, whatever it is, take it on Canada like he's doing now. He's the first president of the United States who is so independently wealthy he can't be bought. And everything that he does is about making the United States better and making the lives of the American people better. And that's something that you're never going to experience on this level ever again that we're experiencing with President Trump. So it's something that you most definitely want to appreciate. And I want to go through here on the program what's going on between the United States and Canada. Canada, they're so outmatched. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like these retired NBA stars that are going to go play for the WNBA. The top players in the WNBA, they're not really pros. They're going to find out right quick when the retired NBA stars get over there. But the White House just put out a list from the president in a statement called Canada's Free Ride. And I'm going to go through this, and it details from the President of the United States through Caroline Leavitt's office at the White House what Canada has been getting away with. If you're new to the program, welcome. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Those of you that are new, make sure that you subscribe. Everyone, please like the video. So this is from the White House. This just dropped a little bit ago. Canada's Free Ride. I'm going to read from this, and it gives us a lot of detail. And then I'm going to go through some of the highlights and the news bites that's been going on many of them in the last few hours. Canada has been ripping off the United States for decades. And this is the White House press office. And President Donald J. Trump is done letting them get away with it. Last week, the U.S. offered Canada the most preferential market access of any country on earth, with deep cuts on steel, aluminum, autos, lumber, and more. Instead of partnership, Canada chose unreasonable demands, walkbacks, and flat-out rejection. See, this is the thing, all right? We're the big man on campus, not Canada. Canada is on our coattails. They always have been, and that's cool, and we're cool with it. But, you know, you just got to know your place. You're not one of the big boys. Back to the White House statement here. The record of Canadian abuse is clear and deliberate. Fact. Canada is joined only by the People's Republic of China in choosing retaliation over negotiation. Their continued discriminatory treatment of U.S. commerce has burdened American workers, farmers, and businesses. Fact. Canada alone imposed discriminatory 25% tariffs and company-specific quotas on U.S. motor vehicles. Measures apply to no other country. As a result, U.S. vehicle exports to Canada crashed 22% over the last year. See, you know, what you have with the leadership of Canada, like you have with a lot of politicians, you've got narcissistic, corrupt public officials who somehow are getting paid to stand up to President Trump in the United States. They don't care about the Canadian people. Fact, Canada banned American wine, beer, and spirits in nearly every province and territory, while other countries have faced no such restrictions. As a result, U.S. alcohol exports to Canada collapsed 81% in a single year. So Canada, when you go through this statement from the White House, Canada has begun, it's been going on for a year, an economic war against the United States. And what, we're supposed to just suck it up? Fact, Canada locks out U.S. dairy with tariffs. Fact, Canada locks out U.S. dairy with tariff rate quotas far more restrictive than those given to Europe, plus over-quoted tariffs of nearly 300%. Rates so extreme, they function as a near total ban and rank among the highest agricultural tariffs in the developed world. Not only is Canada involved in a trade war with the United States, I mean, they're like going nuclear here. Fact, reading from the White House release today. Fact, Canada has extracted a persistent average annual goods trade deficit of roughly $50 billion from the United States over the last decade, while refusing reciprocal access. Fact, Canada targeted American aerospace manufacturer Gulfstream for years. They effectively prohibited the sale of, and they list 4 different models of aircraft, while shielding its own competitor until President Trump intervened. Fact, Canada's protectionist barriers, discriminatory auto quotas, alcohol bans, and dairy lockouts have hammered American companies. This has cost U.S. producers billions in lost sales, forced layoffs, and driven market share to foreign competitors who face none of the same restrictions. I mean, you know, basically, I know you're not seeing this in the news, are you? No, they don't want you to know this because the media, it's a midterm election year. So the media want to act as if President Trump is the aggressor. Canada has declared absolute war against the United States. Back to the White House statement from today. Fact, without the United States, Canada could not survive. Canada sends roughly 3/4 of all its goods exports to America, and the U.S. market is where Canada gets the overwhelming majority of its money and economic oxygen. Fact, Canada's failed trade policies are driving its own manufacturers south. A recent survey found 42% of Canadian manufacturers have already moved or are planning to move production to the United States. See, this goes into they don't care about the Canadian people. Fact, Canada is doubling down on tariffs targeting American workers. Canada just announced an additional $27.6 billion in tariffs on American businesses, including a 50% tariff on American steel and aluminum, a 25% tariff on American fish, and a 25% tariff on American tools. See, what they don't understand is we don't need them, right? They need us. You know, and this other they keep saying Canada's not for sale. What makes them think we want to buy Canada? Nobody wants Canada, even for free. Fact, the U.S. economy is approximately 13 times larger than the Canadian economy and home to over 8 times as many people. The United States has clear leverage, no doubt about it. And that's where I was telling you is Canada doesn't realize that they are not one of the big boys. They're minor league players trying to play in the major leagues. But you know, when you see the way the president's handling this, President Trump, he's handling this like he handles everything, right? And that is America's going to win. And we're going to win because we have the economic power. Here's one of their ministers. Canada's so insignificant. In the United States, we don't even know who their people are. We know who Carney is. That's about it. Ford from Ontario. That's about it. And you know why Americans don't know who all the Canadian leaders are? Because they're not players. They're like state senators, right?
we're not going to talk about and we're not going to negotiate through the media. We didn't negotiate through the media when we worked with Alberta. We didn't negotiate through.
Hear this, Alberta. So the Canadian government has to negotiate with its own provinces. They're fractured even in their own country.
The media when we worked with Quebec and Newfoundland to get to the largest single investment in Canadian history, and we're not going to do it now. What the Prime Minister did very transparently was say to Canadians, we have some red lines. We have a red line on sovereignty. We will not let another nation tell us which countries we can do trade deals with. We have a red line on the fact that we are a bilingual country.
It's bilingual. They don't even speak the English right. Bilingual. Oh my goodness. So what they're trying to do, if you notice this, the bilingual. What they're trying to do is try to get the French Canadians against the United States now, right? You know, trying to act like President Trump's against, you know, the language of the French. No, he's not. In fact, he released a statement on that today.
We are a bilingual country.
Bilingual.
And that French is a founding language in this country. That is a red line.
Isn't it so weird? They've just, you know, and it's just like the media in this country. They just make crap up. What, all of a sudden President Trump is taking on the French Canadians? I miss that.
And we have a red line around competitiveness of our manufacturing sectors. We will not accept a deal which fundamentally undermines the competitiveness of our manufacturing.
Does this guy, this flag on his lapel, this Canadian minister is wearing, that looks like the Chinese. That looks like the Chinese flag. Is that a Canadian flag? Is that a Chinese flag? I don't know.
Sectors. But we will negotiate, and I want to assure Canadians, we have a Prime Minister and Minister LeBlanc and Ambassador Wiseman and Trade Ambassador Charette, who are singularly focused on making sure we get the best possible deal for Canadians.
Yeah, good luck with that. They're going up against the greatest president, the greatest Treasury Secretary, the greatest Secretary of State, right? And they're going up against the largest economy in the world. And I point this out a lot because it's important to understand. The reason that 80% of Canadians live within 150 miles of the United States, I mean, that's nothing. That's nothing. 80% of Canadians live within 150 miles of the U.S. border because that's how dependent they are. Canadians living that close to the United States tells us that they're very much dependent on us. It's a country that has more land than we do. Now, I understand a lot of it's, you know, tundra, frozen tundra. But still, that's pretty close to the U.S. border, isn't it? I mean, 150 miles is nothing. 150 miles. That's closer than Key West is to my house, and I live in South Florida, right? That's how dependent they are. So running around with your fake news that President Trump is against the French language, I don't know, make that crap up, and that you're an equal competitor is insane. It's like putting the women's World Cup soccer team, which, by the way, lost to middle school boys, up against the World Cup winners. All right? It's just not the same thing. Okay, here's a clip. This is CNN.
What Trump is doing is he's instituting a worldwide trade extortion scheme.
Okay, now this is a Washington Post reporter, okay?
What Trump is doing is he's instituting a worldwide trade extortion scheme. It's not, the tariffs are not about any particular outcome. They're about going to each country and saying, hey, nice country you got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
Okay, before we get into this, see, here's the thing. The United States is not only the largest economy in the world, by far. There's no country even close, right? If you put all of Europe together, they're almost to what we are, right? But they're not. All of Europe together, but they're not equal to us. But we're not just the largest economy in the world. We're also, you've heard this many times, and it's been promoted by the left for many years as if it's a negative. We're the largest consumer economy in the world. So all these other countries need us to buy their crap. And that also gives us incredible amounts of power. Okay? All right, let's get back to this jerk.
What Trump is doing is he's instituting a worldwide trade extortion scheme. The tariffs are not about any particular outcome. They're about going to each country and saying, hey, nice country you got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. And what he's seeking from each of these countries is submission. He wants them to submit their economic independence and sovereignty to him. And of course, the effect that that has in those countries is the opposite of what he wants. It puts
So when you think of Canada, because that's what everything is going on with right now. Everything's about Canada right now, right? What is tell me one thing that we need from Canada. Not something we get, something we need. And you know what the answer to that is? Nothing.
the incentive to all of the politicians in Canada to oppose him, because if they do submit, they'd be thrown out of office right away. So what he's done is he's ensured the failure of his own policy, and in doing so, ensured that the retaliation will come. Now, while it's true that Canada will suffer more than the Americans,
absolutely,
it's also true that the Canadians are so pissed off at us right now. 80% of Canadians are against the United States for the first time in living memory, that they're willing to suffer more for the point of maintaining their sovereignty and standing up to Trump.
See, here's the thing. The Canadian people and the American people and the American government and the Canadian people got no beef with one another. We all get along very well. A lot of Canadians come to Florida, you know, during the winter months, okay? It's these guys in the government. It's the Prime Minister. It's Ford. It's some of their ministers of this and that. They got a beef, right? And their beef is they're trying to act like they are tough. And what they're doing is costing Canada big time, because what's going to happen, and it's already happening, the president mentioned it in that statement that I went through from the White House, they're going to lose business. And what they're going to find is that the president is going to not only continue to impose these tariffs, there's going to be a massive toll on the road to enter the United States with all of these trucks, and same with the trains that they send here with goods and services. The American people aren't going to suffer at all. It's going to be Canadian workers.
And so that's not the case in Michigan. That's not the case in Maine. People in America are not a fan of these trade wars. They're not on board with Trump's strategy.
We love it.
So there will be political consequences.
None.
Not for Trump, because he's not running, but for Republicans. But it's pretty clear that Trump doesn't care about that.
No, America, we love it. You know, one of the things, this is what they don't get, you know, make America great again. They always ask these questions. What does that mean? Make it great for who? Right? You know, what is he talking about? You know, and this is where all that comes from, okay? One of the things that, you know, I'm wearing one of my Make America Great Again hats today that the president has seen with his own eyes, right? Part of making America great again, it's about many things, but one of the things that Make America Great Again is about is putting America in its proper place as the leader of the world. And they used to say that the president of the United States is the leader of the free world, and that hasn't been true for a long time until Trump was in office the first time, and then it was gone for 4 years, and now it's back. The United States is the leader, not of the free world. The United States is the leader of the world in all areas. So they want to share this. So they started this thing that they just made up, fake Canadian news, that the president is against the French Canadians. And the president put a post out on Truth Social. And here's what he wrote. This was on Truth Social earlier today. The president said, "I would never interfere with Canadians speaking French. In fact, I have never even thought of doing such a stupid thing. This lie was made up by a weak and ineffective prime minister in an attempt to gain political support, which he has totally lost from the people of Quebec. I love French Canadians." President Donald J. Trump. In fact, I think Melania, one of the 5 languages she speaks, I think, is French. So here's Carney talking about this thing. He just totally made up, total fiction.
What do you make of President Trump's comments that the Prime Minister was fabricating the issue around the protection of the French language, and how he says that he loves French Canadian people? Pouvez répondre en français aussi?
We all love French Canadian people.
You know, isn't it ridiculous? Who is this woman? Melanie Joly. Melanie Joly. Who is she? See, this is what I mean. They think they're playing on an equal playing field. In the United States, we don't even know who your leaders are because they're not significant enough for us to know.
I'm in love with one too, you know. The question is not about love. The question is about sovereignty.
Sovereignty. See, they're getting back to this thing. No, they're getting back to this thing that their sovereignty is at risk. The United States does not want Canada. We want Greenland, okay? But you're not Greenland. This is what they don't understand. Do you know why we don't want to buy Canada? Why do you think, guys? Think about it for a second. If you've been calling, I'm not taking calls right now, okay? I know a lot of you have been calling. I'm not taking calls right now. Why do you think President Trump and the United States do not want to buy Canada? We do want to buy Greenland. We do want to make Greenland part of the United States. No doubt about it. But Canada's not Greenland, and there's all kinds of reasons that we want Greenland. Why do you think we don't want Canada? You know why? Because we already have it. There's no Canada without the United States. Don't you get it? We already have Canada. That's it, right? This little thing that's going on is just, this will be short-lived.
And what we stand for in this country. We're a country that believes in having 2 official languages. And that's part of why we decided decades ago, years ago, more than 150 years ago, to make this important alliance between English and French people.
Okay, yeah, really? Remember when Quebec was going to become its own country back in the 90s? You know, there is no, they've just totally created these things. Okay, here's another one of their ministers, LeBlanc. Okay, let me get. He's on CNBC. They haven't gotten so much. These Canadian ministers. I wonder if they're nervous. They're on American television. You know, being on national television in Canada is like being on cable access in the U.S. Right? These guys are on national television in the United States for the first time. You think they're nervous? I bet they are.
Minister LeBlanc, this is the last thing Canada needs, and I'm not sure whether you have a good feel for changes that need to be made in the economic approach.
This guy's been interviewing, this CNBC guy has been interviewing so many Canadians for the first time. He's starting to pick up the Canadian accent. Listen.
Good feel for changes that need to be made.
Hear how he said made? The CNBC guy's picking up a Canadian accent or something. I don't know.
In the economic approach of Canada. I know you're familiar with GDP. Personal GDP actually is falling most years in Canada. The OECD projects that Canada, out of 38 OECD members, will rank 38, dead last in GDP per capita growth through 2060. And I'm trying to figure out why. I looked to see, and I did find one thing. It says here, tax and regulatory competitiveness. There's a gap even with the...
Yeah. So Canada's coming in dead last with the GDP of all the major countries, and they're taking us on. This is hilarious. It really is. You know, here's the thing. All right. One of the reason President Trump is doing what he's doing with Canada is for a couple of reasons. One, it's the right thing to do. They've been on our coattails, ripping us off. You know, Canada's been betraying us since the American Revolution. They didn't join our colonies. They stayed with England. When our founding fathers stood up and said, "No more kings," right? You guys seen Hamilton? All that cultural appropriation going on in Hamilton. Yeah, liberals think that cultural misappropriation is appropriate, right? But ever since the American Revolution, the Canadians have been betraying us, and they've been on our coattails. Look at that. Here's a couple more truth posts from the president. Canada has been ripping off the USA for decades. They've been charging our farmers 400% tariffs and more. This is the president today. They have driven many wonderful U.S. companies out of business. For 10 years, they wouldn't certify Gulfstream jets until I got involved. They wanted 100% of the market for Gulfstream's Canadian competitor. I deal with many countries, and Canada is easily the most difficult and unreasonable. They feel entitled, but they're not a state and will be entitled no longer. President DJT. You know, see, that's it. They think that they have some relationships on the, with some of our states, like Michigan. You hear a lot of talk about Michigan. Yeah, they have such a great relationship with Michigan that they stole all of Detroit's automotive industry to Canada. But because we have, when I was in school, in high school, it was during the Reagan years, during the Cold War, and they used to talk a lot, and we used to teach us this in social studies, that the United States and Canada have the largest unfortified border in the world, and it was a symbol of pride because of the Iron Curtain. I don't know if that's true anymore. Is there a border that's equally and as long that's I don't know. But because we have this unfortified border, Canada, in many ways, thinks they are a state. They don't think of it that way, but they have such a relationship with the United States where they've ripped off so much of our industry from Michigan and other states that they've gotten spoiled. President said this was also on True Social, over the last 10 years, the United States lost on average $60 billion a year with Canada. No more. President DJT. That's right. They have been getting the treatment as if they were a state. And President Trump is not putting up with that anymore. Those days are over. And yesterday, when Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, when he came out and made these statements, I mean, this is disgusting. I mean, how unappreciative can he be?
If President Trump escalates, Canada needs to be ready to do the same. Everything needs to be on the table. We need to use Canada's many points of leverage to create maximum impact.
See, that's where Canada doesn't understand. They do not have points of leverage against us. Yeah, we get some things from them, including electricity and lumber and oil. We don't need any of that. The only reason we get these things from Canada is we've had some corrupt people running the country before Trump and, during the Autopay years. And they've sold out the country and made some deals. We don't need electricity. We don't need water. We don't need lumber. We don't need oil. We don't need natural gas. We need nothing from Canada. But they don't realize that. They think we need them. Isn't that crazy? And they're going to be in for a rude awakening. Because if this continues, there's going to be an economic collapse in Canada. Because Canada is not a sovereign country. They keep talking about sovereignty. They're not a sovereign country. They're a client state of the United States. They just don't know it. All right, let's finish up with Doug Ford here.
Everything needs to be on the table. We need to use Canada's many points of leverage to create maximum impact, targeting deep red states and making sure that America's economy feels the pain. And make no mistake, Americans are already feeling the pain because President Trump's tariffs are nothing more than a tax on the American people, raising the cost of everything from homes to food and making life more uncertain for the tens of millions of Americans.
I mean, isn't this crazy? The guy doesn't understand, that Canada is what Canada is. It's a conquered country by the United States. There is no Canada without the United States. And I want you to think about this, just so you can have an understanding of how tiny. And I'm not saying this to attack Canadians. I like Canadians. My wife's mother is an immigrant to the United States from Canada, right? She's a U.S. citizen now, has been for a long, long time. But and she did it the right way, right? She went through a very long process. Even, my mother-in-law gave birth to my brother-in-law is older than my wife, right? So my mother-in-law had 2 children in the United States. She was married, or my father-in-law's American. You didn't just automatically become she went through a very long process to become a U.S. citizen, so she's not Canadian anymore. But her Canadian relatives visit. I know I've known Canadians my whole life. You can't. I grew up in South Florida. You can't grow up in South Florida and not know Canadians. My best friend in high school was Canadian, right? And after high school, we were roommates for a couple of years in an apartment. So, so I know a lot of Canadians, got Canadians in my family, and I'll tell you this, when I talk to Canadians here in the United States, you know what they don't like? They don't like this Canadian government. You know, they have this parliamentary system up there that is just impossible to get out of power. I mean, the Canadian people are not free like we are. But Canada, it's what it really is. If you want to know the truth about it, in plain speaking, Canada is to the United States what Puerto Rico is to the United States. It's a territory of our country. They're not a sovereign nation. The sovereignty of Canada is an illusion in their own mind. But we don't, we just don't remind them of that because we haven't had to before, right? Now, I'm going to take a break. I got a lot of other stories I am going to comment on. My name is Brian. This is The Brian Craig Show, available wherever you get podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like the video, all right? So I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to cover. And I may take calls. I'm not sure if I'm going to take calls on today's show or not. I haven't decided yet, but I'm going to take a quick break first. And after the break, we'll come back with more. So don't go anywhere, all right? Stay tuned. On the line, we have Frank. He's a listener, and he's a client of Jupiter Joe Thomas. Frank, welcome. So, Frank, could you tell me how Jupiter Joe Thomas helped you?
What he's advertising today and putting out there is a fantastic product for people like me, and there's millions of people like me that want a good sound investment, and they want a good sound, caring, loving investment advisor, and that's Jupiter Joe. He's in the business for like 30 years, and he knows his business. Him and his family make you feel so comfortable. You sit down, and he gives you a real full analysis of what's going on and what he has to offer. And I got into these income streams, these streaming products. And I jumped on it right away. And when he told me what I'm going to get, and I'm getting it right now, and on one of them, I was amazed. He doubled what this other so-called investment advisor was offering me, and I'm jumping for joy.
Do what Frank did. Call Jupiter Joe Thomas right now. Schedule your no-charge consultation. Talk to Joe Thomas about annuities and be guaranteed income every month for the rest of your life. 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999 and online, jupiterjoe.com. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. If you're new to the program, welcome. My name is Brian, and I'm here live streaming on YouTube every morning, even on weekends, Monday through Monday, okay, and most afternoons, too. So those of you that are new, welcome to the program. We're in our primary season here in the United States, and the left are really trying to make something out of this, this Ahmed in Michigan, and they're really considering making Mamdani, the mayor of New York, the Time Person of the Year. This is CNN.
But take a look here. Mamdani's chance to be in 2026 Times Person of the Year. We're going to do that right up there. Times Person of the Year in 2026. Look, he's leading the pack. He is leading the pack at this point. That is what's so unbelievable. His chance to win something that we know Donald Trump's like to win might be the ultimate pain point for the President of the United States.
This is outrageous. First of all, we are just a couple of weeks away from the 25th anniversary of the Islamic Muslim terrorist attack on the United States of 9/11. And some of you, as you get older, it's hard to believe, but there are people that are not old enough to remember 9/11. And 9/11, I got goosebumps just thinking about it. I was on the air talking into this exact microphone. I've had this microphone for a long time, but I was talking into this microphone on September 11th when those planes hit the building. And I couldn't believe it. My wife, Kathy, called me, and she said, the plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. We're under attack. Turn on the TV. And I actually had it was so long ago, 25 years ago, next month, I had a TV in the radio studio. I turned it on. I saw the second plane hit. I didn't know it was the second plane. I thought it was a replay of the first. And what it was like in this country after 9/11, if you didn't live through it, you can't explain it. It can't explain it. you know, on the radio show, we didn't do commercials for a month. We because it was, you know, and it was a scary time. What we did is at the end of each hour, we thanked all of our sponsors and gave out their contact information, but we didn't take commercial breaks or do commercials like we do. It tells you and I don't even know how to describe what that time was like. It was a scary time. And, you know, we didn't even know that, you know, it was over. I remember what it was like in the country. Everyone got these flags that you put on a post and that you would roll up in the window of your car. People were driving around with their headlights on everywhere. Now everybody drives with their headlights on because they got that automatic running light thing. You didn't back in 2001. And we had the flags on all of our cars, and it was something. And what happened is a phrase came out of it called "never again," never forget, right? Kind of like the Holocaust. And the left not only have forgotten what Obama did in his presidency is crazy. When you look back at Obama's presidency, it seems like he wasn't doing much of anything. He was incredibly busy, and he was busy bringing people like Ahmed's family and Mamdani and Ilhan Omar into the country. And he brought, we don't know how many, Muslims into the country. And what that's done is change the demographics of this country in a Muslim direction. This morning I covered a story. Let me see if I can find this. I covered this on the morning show today, that the Girl Scouts of America. Let me see if I can find this. I'm not sure if I can find it. It's somewhere on my X. Let me just Google it and find. Maybe that'll be faster. Let me see if I can find this story. I couldn't believe it. I found it in the Post Millennial, which is a Canadian conservative publication. Okay, let me see if this will come up in Newsweek. Okay, all right. Yeah, here's a story on it in Newsweek. This is not getting very much publicity. Girl Scouts respond after Muslim badges spark backlash. So, and the Girl Scouts are in a panic right now for obvious reasons. The Girl Scouts of America are actually giving out a new badge, Muslim badges, where you earn that badge as a Girl Scout by learning the pillars of Islam and visiting mosques. So, you know, the Girl Scouts are trying to walk that back and get away from it, but it was announced and it's happening. So why is that happening? Why are the Girl Scouts of America giving out a Muslim badge to Girl Scouts who learn the pillars of Islam and go to mosques? Well, because obviously there are so many Muslims in parts of the country that are involved in Girl Scouts that there's a market for it. That's why they're doing it. And you know, and I know some people, you know, you'll say, "Oh, how can you talk this way?" You know, Barack Obama, looking at it, looks uneventful, but he's done incredible amounts of damage to this country. You know, when people put together who's the worst president in history, for many, many years, it's been considered Lyndon Johnson has been the worst president in history, worse than Jimmy Carter, because he came up with the welfare program, the Great Society, and the destruction that did. His war on poverty that created more poverty. I'm not going to get sidelined into that, but he did a lot of destruction. But I'll tell you now, I think it's Barack Obama. I mean, look at the Somalis with all that fraud operation in Minneapolis that was uncovered by Nick Shirley. You look at Ahmed and what's going on in Michigan, where in Michigan they have roads named after Palestinians and things like this. There's been a major demographic shift in certain parts of this country, all brought to us by Barack Obama, and this push to make Mamdani the Time Magazine Man of the Year is so disrespectful to those who died on 9/11 and the 9/11 families. And I wouldn't be surprised. You know, Time Magazine, is it even in print anymore? You know, Time Magazine is, you know, it's so irrelevant they may do something so stupid and just to try to get some publicity. And don't believe what they say. There's no such thing as bad publicity. That's not true. You know who says that? People that get nothing but bad publicity, like O.J. Simpson did, right? There is most definitely a such thing as bad publicity. And if Time Magazine names Mamdani or Ahmed Man of the Year, Person of the Year, whatever they call it these days, whatever is left of Time Magazine will evaporate. The country is not ready for that. Now, here in Florida, I know some of you are calling. I'm probably not going to take calls till tomorrow morning, guys. So, if you want to call me tomorrow morning on the program, you certainly are welcome to do that, all right? Here in Florida, and I do want to mention before I get into this other stuff that Dolly Parton died today, and that's crazy. I mean, I cannot believe Dolly Parton has died. She was, Dolly Parton seemed to be like one of those people that would never die, right? I mean, you never would think of Dolly Parton die. I know she's old, I know, but you just wouldn't think that she would die. She's one of those people you think's always going to be there. And Dolly Parton, who's a huge American icon, of course, died today. And President Trump has ordered flags at half staff for Dolly Parton. That's a very unusual thing. Lowering the flags for like a person like that. President Trump mourned the death of country music legend Dolly Parton, announcing plans to order the flag to be flown at half staff for a week in her honor. The president posted on Truth Social, "This is a true loss for millions of Americans. There has never been anyone like her and never will. Rest in peace, Dolly. The world loves you." That's crazy. 80? Was she 80? Yeah, 80 years old. And it's hard to believe. I know. She's one of those people that, and something that's very rare for celebrities. I have never, ever heard a negative story about Dolly Parton. Have you? Not a lot of celebrities can say that, And she was a pretty good movie too. I like. No one else likes this, but she made a movie with Sylvester Stallone that Stallone says is his worst movie. It was called, what was the name of that movie? With Sylvester Stallone. What was it called, Kath? Rhinestone. Thank you very much. Yeah, you guys ever see Rhinestone with Dolly Parton and Sylvester Stallone? I haven't seen it in a long time. I saw it in the theater. I saw The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas in the theater too. I was a kid. I didn't even know what a whorehouse was. I didn't get it, but it had Burt Reynolds in it. So and I don't know. One of my parents took me. I don't know how old I was when The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas came out, but I don't know. So someone in my family took me as a child to go see a movie about a whorehouse, and they were singing. Kind of strange to even say that word, but Rhinestone's pretty funny. And in that movie, Dolly Parton plays a country singer who's a big star. And she makes a bet that she can take anyone off the street and make them a country singing star. And then she's in New York, and then Stallone's a cab driver who pulls up, and she makes him into a star. I think it's funny. I like it, but she'll definitely be missed. I've never been to Dollywood. Have you guys been to Dollywood? What Dolly Parton did with Dollywood is one of the most amazing things anyone has done. Everybody, likes to give, Steel Magnolias. She was very good, Steel Magnolias. She was a very good actress. I mean, there's no doubt. Everyone talks about Walt Disney and Walt Disney World and Walt Disneyland and what that did. But what Dolly Parton did with Dolly World or Dollywood is amazing, okay? What she did with Dollywood is she built that theme park, which is a huge park. It's as busy as Disney World is in many ways. If you look it up online, you'll see. I've never been. My parents went once or twice. I've seen a lot of YouTubers who go to Dollywood and make videos there. It's a theme park like Disney World. And it's very, very popular. It's huge. And the whole city and town are all about it. And what Dolly Parton did is she went to her 9 to 5 is probably her greatest movie. Yeah, 9 to 5. She went to her hometown and built Dollywood for the people of her hometown. so that, you know, to make it a great place economically, to create jobs and make it a tourist destination. And I didn't realize that till a few years ago, because I remember when she started Dollywood and everything, and I really didn't get it. It seemed kind of strange, and it seemed like kind of a big thing to do. But and then as I grew older and I heard the story of it, I thought that was a pretty selfless act of hers to take a big financial risk like that and start a major theme park in Tennessee, out in the middle of nowhere at the time, her hometown, to help the people of the town and to give back to the town through her celebrity, because that's where she started. I think that's a pretty cool thing she did. And that is one of, if not the most charitable thing I've ever heard any celebrity do, ever. I don't think I've ever heard a celebrity do something as charitable as Dolly Parton starting Dollywood in her hometown. It's pretty cool, isn't it, when you think about it? It surely is. I'm going to take a quick break, and then when we get back, there's a bunch more that I want to cover, all right? You're listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast. My name's Brian, and of course, The Brian Craig Show is available wherever you get podcasts. We'll take a quick break and be right back.
Are you tired of spending too much on takeout, guessing what's in your food, or realizing at the end of a long day that you still have nothing ready to eat? Those days are over with Mounts Meals. Mounts Meals are chef-prepared meals that are made fresh, never frozen, and delivered every week from Boca to West Palm. Mounts Meals was founded by Chef Austin Mountcastle, who spent over 10 years as a high-level head chef in restaurants across the state of Florida. He created Mounts Meals to get back to what he loves most, cooking great food for real people. And you can taste the difference. Whole cuts of meat, real ingredients, honest proportions, everything weighed, labeled, and prepared so you know exactly what you're eating. With Mounts Meals, choose from high-protein American favorites, comfort classics, family-sized options, and a new limited run special every week. Tracking macros? No problem. Every meal clearly lists calories, protein, carbs, and fat. Training for something bigger? Mounts Meals has you covered. You can even work out with your coach's targets and build your meals around your performance plan. Mounts Meals is perfect for gym goers, busy professionals, athletes, families, and even offices that want a better option than another stack of takeout menus. A fresh meal drops every Thursday at noon, and meals are prepared and delivered cold-packed every Monday. You can also pick up your order and e-spoke up. There's no cooking, no counting, no guessing. Just open the fridge, grab your meal, and get on with your day. Stop ordering takeout. Your meals are handled. Visit mountsmeals.com right now. That's mountsmeals.com. Fuel for the climb. mountsmeals.com. Some crimes make headlines. Others leave behind questions that take years to answer. Crime Explained on YouTube takes you inside real cases with clear factual storytelling. On Crime Explained, there's no hype, no filler, just the facts. From shocking murders and mysterious disappearances to body cam footage, cold cases, criminal psychology, investigations, and courtroom verdicts. Crime Explained on YouTube takes you step by step through what happened, what investigators uncovered, and how each of those cases unfolded. Many cases are ripped right from the headlines, like the Luigi Maggioni trial, along with new true crime documentaries and case breakdowns. If you're fascinated by true crime and want responsible storytelling focused on real cases, real facts, and clear explanations, subscribe to Crime Explained on YouTube. Search Crime Explained 2026. That's Crime Explained 2026 on YouTube. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a case. Crime Explained. Real cases, facts explained.
Hi, Tom Laporta here. We are Laporta Roofing, a family business since 1983. You are our customer. In other words, our boss. We are here for and because of you, not the other way around. The 2026 rainy season is upon us. Because we haven't had a hurricane in 2 years, all the storm chaser roofing companies have gone out of business, leaving only the strongest and the best contractors. At Laporta Roofing, we will never sell you a roof you don't need. We don't have salesmen or commissions, so we will never pressure you to sign a contract. Also, deposits are not required. At Laporta Roofing, you will always come first. We must earn your trust, and we will. So call me on my cell at 954-604-4602 or find us on the web at laportaroofing.com. That number again is 954-604-4602, 954-604-4602, or on the web at laportaroofing.com.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. Thanks for tuning in. Those of you that are new, welcome. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and like the video. You know, when you like the video, it gets recommended to people that have not yet found the channel. So please do that if you don't mind. And if you're listening on one of the audio podcast platforms, please do me the favor of liking the video. Okay, that helps a lot too. So Byron Donalds we have here in Florida, he announced who his lieutenant governor running mate is. And he's new to the scene. I mean, he's a Miami Cuban in state government, but and his parents are from Cuba, right? So you'll hear Cuban exile a lot. This is one of the most exciting tickets ever in a state race. Okay, and this is really I'm very excited about this. Okay, and I'll tell you why. This is it, right? Byron Donalds just won the Republican primary. He is a rock star in Florida. He's huge. He puts a Cuban American, Cuban exile on the ticket. You have a black man. You have a Cuban American whose parents lived under communism. And what are they doing? They're fighting the Democrat Party, which has been taken over by communists, right, with the Democrat Socialist. A stronger message could not have been sent than this, right? And what that's going to happen after they win, and they will win, what that's going to do is get an entire dialogue going about communism, about socialism. By the way, socialism is a lie, okay? It's not, it's communism. They call themselves socialist, but they're really communist, okay? That's just a cover because they know the American people wouldn't put up with that. But with all that being said, you have the governor of Florida and the lieutenant governor of Florida being who they are and what they are and being Republican. When after they win and we get through all of this, they're going to be on the front lines of taking on the Democrat Socialist after the election's over in the governor's mansion. And there's a move in the state of Florida by the Democrat Socialist, right? We've got a Democrat Socialist that the Democrats nominated for the Senate. And they have, I wanted to pull this up for you guys. This is nuts. They got a guy running for the Democrats. They have a guy running for governor, Jolly, who used to be a Republican. Not only did he used to be a Republican, he was a Republican member of the United States House of Representatives. Can you imagine when Bush was president? So he's one of the neocons that you hear about all the time. So why, what would possess them to nominate a neocon Republican, the Democrats, is beyond me. But this guy has gone on tape and said something on two occasions that I have here that is crazy. Listen to this. This is the Democrats' nominee for governor of Florida running against Byron Donalds. His name's David Jolly.
But I was driving across Alligator Alley a few months back, and I thought, what is it, the urgency of this? What is the passion behind this? And what came to me is something I want to have the opportunity to do on election night. When the cameras are rolling, I want to have the opportunity to say to the world, on behalf of the state that launched culture wars, we apologize. We apologize.
Apologize for what? He's apologizing for the state of Florida for what? Having the best weather? I mean, what most freedom? What is he talking? He's running for governor. And remember, Obama talked about this. Barack and Michelle wanted to travel the world and apologize for the United States. Remember that? What kind of comment is that? And then here he is. It looks like he's talking at a church. This is the Democrat running for governor, David Jolly. Listen.
The state, we're raising our kids in this state. But my wife and I ask ourselves every single day, should we raise our children in this state?
What? So Florida, he and his wife, they talk about this every day, right? So he and his wife are driving around in the car, running errands, going out to dinner, and they say, should we even raise our children in this state of Florida? And he wants to be the governor of a state that he thinks is such a terrible place that he He doesn't want his children raised here. I've never heard of something like this. But this is going to be nonstop played all over the state of Florida. You'll hear me playing a lot on the program, too.
The state, we're raising our kids in this state. But my wife and I ask ourselves every single day, should we raise our children in this state? That's real. That is our lived experience. Some of you with kids and grandkids, you know this.
With kids and grandkids, you know what he's talking about? I don't think so. I don't think so. The only people that don't like Florida are people that are not from here, and they don't like the humidity when it gets hot in the summer. Like, we just got through the hottest time of year, right? And they might move back to where they came from up north because they don't like the hot weather during the summer. We got like 2 months where it's really hot. We just got beyond that, actually. It was in the 80s today, which was nice. It was 113 the other day, heat index. But how can you want to be the governor of a state that you don't think is good enough to raise your children in, that's filled with nothing but bigots? And if you do become governor, you want to travel the state apologizing for the state. I've never heard of such a thing from a politician. So we've got this locked up. It's almost like they want us to win, right? It's almost like they want us to win. I mean, this is complete crazy town. Now we got some more information. There was the Iranian assassination plot against Barron Trump this time. Been confirmed by the Secret Service today, and I'll go through some of this. There have been, those of you calling in, you guys call me tomorrow morning, and I'll be glad to take your calls tomorrow morning on the morning show. I'm just not taking any calls this afternoon, but you can call me in the morning. The number's the same, all right? I'm here every morning. There was an assassination plot where there was an arrest made of a terrorist on Ivanka. There was a recent assassination plot against Don Jr. There was a recent assassination plot against Melania Trump, and now we have Barron. I do not know, and I've looked into this over the past few days. Since I don't know of any assassination attempts against the children of a sitting president before, or first lady. This is the first time anything like this has happened. All right, this has not happened before, and now we got Barron. This is crazy. The U.S. Secret Service, this is Associated Press reporting, the U.S. Secret Service has confirmed it is aware that Iranian state media aired a video that appears to threaten the life of Barron Trump. Since the U.S. assassination of the Ayatollah Khomeini, Iranian media have on multiple occasions circulated content threatening the president and family members. You really got to ask yourself, those of you that are never Trumpers, those of you that are Democrats, what does Iran have to do for you to wake up and say, okay, these are some bad guys. They've gone too far. President Trump, what he's doing against them is the right thing. Is there anything that they can do that would get you to stand up to them? They basically have tried or plotted or promoted the assassination of the entire Trump family now, including the president himself on multiple occasions, at least 2 that he's mentioned, but I think there's been more. Okay? At what point will you stand up and say these are bad people and stop siding with them? By the way, you see any stories today about the starvation on the Abraham Lincoln? I didn't. I looked. There were no updates today. In fact, it has been a week, and in a week, there has not been a single story for a week now about the Abraham Lincoln. I thought they were starving on the Abraham Lincoln. What happened to that? You know what happened to it? It was fake news. They made it all up. They know they made it all up, and it fell apart for them. Now, I wanted to share this with you. You guys know Patricia Heaton? She's very good. I know she was on Everybody Loves Raymond. I never watched Everybody Loves Raymond, but I do know her from The Middle, which is pretty funny. I like The Middle. You familiar with The Middle, guys? Pretty good show. And she's a well-known Republican. She has been for many years. And she came out as a Republican when she was still a working actress on The Middle, okay, which was a hit show. So she's not one of these people that came out about it after her career was over, okay? Not that her career is over. I don't know what she does now. But she came out as a Republican when The Middle was on. And I remember it because I used to watch The Middle. My wife and I, we love that. We just watched an episode of The Middle the other night. It was pretty funny. They were babysitting a basset hound from one of their relatives, an aunt who was a smoker, and the aunt had smoked so much around this basset hound that it had emphysema, and the basset hound was on oxygen. It was a pretty funny episode. But Patricia Heaton talked about this secret club of closeted Republicans, Friends of Abe, it's called, in Hollywood. And she talks a little bit about how the club communicated.
In Hollywood at that time, especially when Obama was president, it was kind of like Democrats ruled, and there were a lot of people that felt like they couldn't say anything who were conservative. And we ended up having to make a secret group. Did anybody tell you about this? Has anybody talked to you about it? Called FOA, Friends of Abe, as in Abraham Lincoln. So, if you're in Alcoholics Anonymous and you want to find out if somebody else is in it, you say, "Are you a friend of Bill?" Because Bill Wilson started. If you were gay in the 40s in Hollywood, they would say, "Oh,
PA Patriot Prospecting, new to the channel. Welcome, welcome.
Is he a friend of Dorothy?" It's in The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
So ours was Abraham Lincoln, who was our first Republican president.
Okay. Now, I share this for a couple reasons, because I want you to hear this story. But, on our MAGA cruises, we have a secret name for our MAGA cruise that we put around on the ship, and we call it the Friends of Don. So if you go on our MAGA cruise, our next one's in March, by the way. We do it every year, our 11th annual MAGA cruise. If you go to any of our events on the ship, you'll see a sign. It says Friends of Don. That's us. Of course, you know who Don is. I don't have to tell you.
So we were Friends of Abe. So you could say to somebody, "Are you a friend of Abe?" Or "Are you FOA?" And if they said, "Yeah," then you knew there was another conservative or independent or someone who is not a Democrat that you could talk to without feeling like you were going to get in trouble at your job.
Anyone not sort of in the cult? Well,
In the cult.
I would call it the cult.
Yeah. It was actually
He must be a liberal, this guy. I don't know who he is.
Gary Sinise approached me and my husband and said, "Hey, would you guys host just a couple people to come over?" And it was like Kelsey Grammer and John Voight and Ben Shapiro. And
what I would have done to be there.
Yes. And he was like, we're like, "How many people are you thinking?" It'll be 20 people, 30 tops. So 80 people later, we had at our house.
Whoa.
And so it was really fun. And all it was fellowship. We weren't raising money for candidates. We didn't go protest anything. It was just to go hang out, be able to talk freely without worrying about losing your job, and to let other people know who was safe on a set. So people would come to these FOA meetings and they would see people that they worked with and they were like, "You're FOA." And they'd be like, "Oh, you're FOA."
My God.
So, because nobody would talk. If you were a conservative Republican or libertarian, you wouldn't talk about it.
For more
clips
like this.
And I'll tell you, a thing about, liberals, right? Liberals, they're all into diversity. They're all into diversity. And, but they're not really. They're not into diversity of opinion, diversity of thought. And, they got all their ribbons and they got all their check marks and everything. But if you are a conservative, you're done to them, right? If you're a conservative, they don't want you anywhere near them. You're a pariah. And that's it. You're done. That's just how they operate. And it's really a sad thing. There's these guys that this is a really strange thing, right? There's these guys that have a Star Trek podcast, and the host of it were writers on another sitcom that was on ABC. Kathy, what was the name of that sitcom that took place in the 80s? Which one? The one that took place in the 80s with the three kids? Yeah. We used to watch it all the time. You guys know what I'm talking about? It took place in the 80s. It was on a few years ago, not the middle. What's that? They had two brothers and a daughter. What was the name of that? What was the name of that show? They were writers on that show. I cannot remember the name. What's that? The Goldbergs. Thank you very much, my wife. The Goldbergs. Okay. Remember the Goldbergs? These two guys, they're writers on the Goldbergs. And they had a podcast, a Star Trek podcast. And I'm a big Star Trek fan, have been all my life. They found out that I listened to their podcast. And because I'm MAGA, they even talked about it on their show. How MAGA people, Donald Trump supporters, should not be watching Star Trek because it goes against everything MAGA's about. And they said because it's about diversity. I couldn't believe it. And they even talked about me on their podcast. They didn't mention my name. They talked about me without mentioning my name. Not that I need their publicity. But that's how liberals operate. They're not into diversity of thought. They're not into diversity of opinion. All right? And it's really a sad thing that people, she's talking about in Hollywood, that are conservative have to hide. You know, a lot of you wonder that, listen, when I'm taking calls, why do I take calls from liberals? And I'll tell you why. One, I all opinions are welcome on the program. And when I'm taking calls, you hear a lot of wackadoodle liberals that call me, no doubt about it, right? And different degrees of weirdness come from them. But the reason that is because I meet listeners all the time. When I do an appearance, there's at least one, if not multiple listeners who will tell me, I used to be a liberal, I used to be a Democrat, I voted for Obama, I voted for Hillary, but because I listened to you for however amount of time, I'm a conservative now. I hear that all the time. You don't want to be like them. You want to be welcoming. Remember during the campaign in 2024, there was some really good video. A guy went in Biden gear to a MAGA rally, and everybody loved him and embraced him. Remember that? And then he went to a Democrat event. They didn't have enough people for rallies in MAGA gear, and they were cussing at him and calling him names, and they ran him out of the place. You know, conservatives are the tolerant ones. There's no doubt about it. Now, the Iranians are just getting totally whooped. They're just getting totally destroyed. The president announced it's done. The war is pretty much over. We won it on day one, and it's over. I mean, they're always going to be a bit of a nuisance, right? Without an invasion and taking over the country and having an endless war over there. They're always going to be a nuisance, and we'll hear from them from time to time. But right now, they're pretty devastated. The president announced that all mines have been removed or detonated from the Strait of Hormuz. And not only are ships and tankers going through the strait, every day it's more. A lot of people aren't sending their ships through because they either don't want to get them blown up, and they're afraid. Even though it's safe now, they're afraid, or they can't get insurance and things. But as they see that the ships are passing through the Strait of Hormuz and they're not getting blown up, more and more will be going through every day. And eventually it'll be back to normal. And the reason that the Iranians haven't blown up any of the ships, do you know why? Why do you think they haven't blown up any of the ships? It's because they don't have the ability to do it. That's it, right? You know, if they could, they would, without question, go out and blow up the ships, but they don't have the ability to do it. That's how much they've been defeated. Now, I wanted to show this. Oh, let me pull this clip up. Now, over the weekend, it came out yesterday. I talked about it on yesterday's show, and we've got 2 updates on it. Jared Kushner had a private meeting at someone's mansion with Timu Obama, Dollar Store Obama, Hakeem Jeffries. And it became public. And Hakeem Jeffries went out and made the most bizarre video that I've ever seen a city member. This guy's supposed to be a leader, right? He's the Democrat leader in the House. He went out and made a video trying to explain why he was meeting with Jared Kushner.
I want to give you a little real talk on this Jared Kushner situation. He asked for a meeting, and I took it to discuss the affordability crisis that exists that is not a hoax. At the same period of time, I shouldn't have to say it, but I am. No one is going to get a pass. We're going to hold every single member of the Trump cartel accountable, beginning on day one.
Is he not talking a little too slow? You know what he sounds like? He sounds like someone who's reading but doesn't really know how to read that well yet. Now, so far as why he met with Jared Kushner, we don't know because it hasn't been reported. But we do know it's an unusual thing for him to meet with Jared Kushner. Okay, and I believe that the president sent Jared Kushner to meet with him one-on-one, Hakeem Jeffries, to brief him on some action that's being taken against Iran. You know, military action, they have to inform Congress, they have to inform the opposition party. But he can't inform the whole Congress because there's too many foreigners with terrorist connections, like the Squad that'll tell Iran through their friends in the Muslim Brotherhood or some other Palestinian group. But if they go one-on-one and tell Hakeem Jeffries and it leaks out, they'll know it came from him, okay? And that video was like a hostage video. Now, this what I'm about to show you, if you have sunglasses, put them on, because this is going to scare the hell out of you. James Carville here is responding. By the way, if you're new, welcome to the program. Make sure you subscribe. You'll love my content, okay? I'm live here every day, multiple times a day. And those of you that are already subscribed, please do me the favor of liking the video if you don't mind. This is James Carville. After James Carville found out that Hakeem Jeffries met with Jared Kushner, he had a freak out. Listen.
And you do not meet with them. You do not meet with them. And so you meet with Jared Kushner, we need to drag his ass before a committee and find about what backdoor dealing whorehouse shit he's got going on with Steve Witkoff. And we'll meet with him. Don't meet with him. Don't have anything to do with him. Or fuck these people. If you sitting there saying, I'm taking a meeting with them, how fucking people talk about our institutional establishment. One thing that I know and you know, these are a pack of crooks, and they're a pack of people that don't give a shit about the United States of America, and we don't want to fuck with them. No more meetings, no more bullshit. All right? Throw your right hand in there, put your left hand on the good book or whatever you fuck you put it on, and subject yourself to perjury. That's all I'm interested in. That's all Democrats are interested in of every kind of stripe. So let's cut the bullshit out.
Oh my goodness! I mean, James Carville. You know what's crazy about him? He used to be one of the 2-3 most powerful men in Washington when President Clinton was president. Right? He was his campaign manager on his first campaign. I mean, this guy, he's freaking out, and he's talking directly to Hakeem Jeffries. He's pretty ticked that he met with Jared Kushner. Oh my goodness, I love it. I had that this morning, but obviously I couldn't play it on the radio. Right? So I saved it for you guys. Well, listen, guys, I will see you first thing tomorrow morning. Welcome to everyone who's new and our Canadians out there that are watching. Welcome to you, too. President Trump in America, we love Canadians. It's just your corrupt government, okay, that we got beef with. Make sure you guys like the video. Subscribe if you're new. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Take care.